Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and
Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos.
welcome back. We wish you a good Shabbos and are glad that you're with us again. We've now concluded all of the Jewish festivals of the fall season, but we are now observing an American holiday, if you will. It's called Columbus Day, also known in some places as Indigenous Peoples Day. More about that later on, but let's begin our service. Again, we welcome you.
Als ich will singen Licha Doidi, sollst du singen. When I sing Licha Dodi in the song, then you sing Chiri Biri Bim. Als ich will singen Licha Skala, sollst du singen Chiri Biri Bam. Lecha doidi chiri biri bim, lika skala chiri biri bam. Lecha doidi lika skala chiri biri 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 bim, chiri bim. Chiri bim, chiri bam, chiri bam, chiri bim bam bim bam, chiri bam, chiri bim. Chiri bim bam bim bam, hi chiri biri biri bim bam 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 bam. Ma yafe hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafe hayom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom.
An opening prayer. Let us begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is sacred in our lives. God needs no words, neither in English or in Hebrew or in any other language, no rituals, no ceremonies, but we need them. Through prayer, especially on Shabbat, each of us can sense our inner strength, our greater purpose in life beyond the everyday routine. As we reach upward in prayer, we connect ourselves to the qualities we believe our Creator has given us: the capacity for love of one another, the determination to make our lives better, to appreciate the world that God created, and to do our part to bring it closer to perfection.
Amen ve'amen.
Let's continue now with the singing of Lecha Dodi.
We join together in singing on page 20, Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, hine Shabbat nikabela, Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, hine Shabbat nikabela, Shabbat zachor b'dibur echad, Yishrianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'letiferet v'litina. Join Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, hine Shabbat nikabela, likrat Shabbat lichuvenelcha, ki mikor haberacha, merosh mikedem nisucha, sof maaseh v'machshavat tchila. dir, Likrat kala, Pine Shabbat, Nikabela, Boi, Shalom, Teret Bala, Gam Simcha, Ufsola, Chakemone, Am Sigula, Boi, Kala, Boi,
Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabla. 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 Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, Hishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, Ushmo echad. L'shemo tiferet l'itila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabla. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha. Sof maaseh v'machshavat techila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabla. Boi v'shalom ateret pala, gam b'simcha u'v'zola, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, lecha dodi kala, pnei Shabbat nekabla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabla.
We turn now to the blessing of our Shabbat candles, and Canterbard, would you please bless the candles and kindle them for us?
We join together in lighting our Shabbos candles and offering the bracha. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת. אמן. בואי מלאכים, בואי מלאכים, בואי מלאכים. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat,
Shabbat, Shabbat, shalom,
Shabbat, Shabbat,
Shabbat, Shabbat, shalom, Shabbat, shalom,
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Good Shabbos, everybody.
We're delighted to have with us for this Shabbat our Cantor Emeritus, Alan Cohn, and he's going to do the honors by leading us in the Kiddush. And so, if you please, Chazan.
ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו בשבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש זכר יציאת מצרים כי באנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
We join together in Shalom Aleichem, our welcoming of Shabbos continues, and we are on page 24, or 142 in the large Siddur. Shalom Alechem Malchei Hashoret Malchei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Boachem Lishalom Malchei Hashalom Malchei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Barchuni Lishalom Malchei Shalom Malchei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tzitachem Lishalom Malchei Shalom Malchei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Welcome, O angels of peace. Bless us with peace. May all have a good Shabbat and peace.
We join together now in the chanting of the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malechuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Before we join together in Ve'ahavta, a bit of wisdom, a teaching around the mitzvot, the doing of good deeds, and our Jewish neshumas, our Jewish souls. These are the words, the teaching of the late, great Rabbi Arnold Jacob Wolf, who I had the privilege of knowing and being friends with and working with for so many years in Chicago. He says, I try to walk the road of Judaism. Embedded in that road, there are many jewels. One is marked Sabbath, and one civil rights, and one kashrut, and one honor your parents, kabed et avicha ve'et imecha, and one of those roads is study of Torah, and one, you shall be holy. There are at least 613 of them, and they are of different shapes and sizes and weights. Some are light and easy for me to pick up, and I pick them up. Some are too deeply embedded for me, so far at least, though I get a little stronger by trying to extricate the jewels as I walk that street. Some, perhaps, I shall never be able to pick up. I do not believe that God expects me to lift what I cannot, nor may I condemn my fellow Jew who may not be able to pick up even as much as I can. I do believe that God expects me to keep on walking that road of Judaism and to carry away whatever I can of its commandments.
We join in Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך,
ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. And now in English, love God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Let these mitzvot guide you along the path of life. May they instruct you in your daily tasks. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Place them at the doorway of your house, so that upon entering or departing, they remind you to live by the mitzvot, in order that you may reflect God's holiness through your life. Each of our evening services includes, whether it be the weekday or Shabbat, a prayer that, as we are soon to go to sleep for the night, that we may lie down with a feeling of peace in our hearts and wake up with that same sense of peace and optimism. And the melody, the song, is called Hashkivenu. Cut. And go. All right. As I've commented on more than one occasion to our virtual congregation, it is a mitzvah to be happy on Shabbat, and it is actually against the rules. It is prohibited to be sad. And this is so well expressed by a song that we sing, which is taken from, the Hebrew words are 24, and of course corresponds to the 24 hours of the day. Yismechu b'malchutecha, those who keep Shabbat by calling it a delight will rejoice in your realm. The people that hallow Shabbat will delight in your goodness. For being pleased with the seventh day, God hallowed it as the most precious of days, drawing our attention to the ongoing work of creation. Yismechu. Right? Okay.
Yismechu malachutecha, Shoimrei, Shoimrei, Shoimrei Shabbat, V'korei oneg Shabbat. Ay, Yismechu v'malachutecha, Shoimrei, Shoimrei, Shoimrei Shabbat, V'korei oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshei Shevi Shabbat, Kulam Yispehu, V'yitangu mitu v'cha Shabbat. Ay, Yismechu v'malachutecha, Shoimrei, Shoimrei, Shoimrei Shabbat, V'korei oneg Shabbat. Ay, Yismechu v'malachutecha, Shoimrei, Shoimrei, Shoimrei Shabbat, V'korei oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi v'tzita bo, v'kidashto Shabbat, Kenat yamim, Oto karata Shabbat. Ay, Yismechu במלאכותך, שוימרי, שוימרי, שוימרי שבת, וקורא עונג שבת, שבת, ישמחו במלאכותך, שוימרי, שוימרי, שוימרי שבת, וקורא עונג שבת. זכר למעשה בראשית שבת, זכר למעשה בראשית שבת, ישמחו במלאכותך, שוימרי, שוימרי, שוימרי שבת, וקורא עונג שבת, ישמחו במלאכותך, שוימרי, שוימרי, שוימרי שבת, וקורא עונג שבת.
We continue now with our prayer for peace, page 60. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamavarech et amo Yisrael, ba shalom.
May all be blessed, all people, with peace. Join together. Oseh shalom, shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, amen. Oseh shalom, shalom bimromav, al kol ha'olam ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ve'al kol ha'olam shalom, amen. As we prepare to pause for a few moments of our own silent prayer, our own contemplative moment, meditation, hopes, wishes, we offer a little poem of gratitude and reflection from the Native American tradition, as Rabbi will be teaching us in just a moment. This is a Columbus Day week, and it is even more deeply a time to be grateful for our earth, for our land, and our indigenous people. In the name of the daybreak and the eyelids of morning, and the wayfaring moon and the night when it departs, I will not dishonor my soul with hatred. I will offer myself as a guardian of nature, as a messenger, as a healer, in the name of the sun and its mirrors, and the day that embraces it, and the cloud veils drawn over it, and the night, and the plants bursting with seed, and the season of the firefly and the apple. I will honor all life, whatever, wherever it may dwell, my home on earth and in mansions of the stars. I will honor. Take a few moments. Deep breath. Yeuli ratzon imrefi v'hagion libi lifanecha Adonai tzuri May the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart, be acceptable to you, Adonai.
Once again, Shabbat Shalom to all of you, and welcome back to our services. We finally finished the cycle of the Jewish holy days, ending with Simchat Torah, Shmini Atzeret. But not to be deprived of the opportunity, we had another holiday this past week, not a Jewish holiday, but an American one, Columbus Day. And I wanted to devote my talk this Shabbat to the subject of Columbus Day, which is considerably more complicated than one might think. The year 1492 is a familiar date to all of us, and I'm sure that as children, many learned the poem in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. But in truth, 1492 has mixed meaning to various peoples. Yes, it is at least attributed to be the year of the discovery of America. I'll come back to that later on. 1492 also marks the time of the Spanish Inquisition, when the Jews of Spain were given the choice of either converting to the church, to Catholicism, or leaving the country altogether, which many did, or becoming secret Jews. And 1492 for indigenous people, as they prefer to be called, American Indians, as some would call them, or the original Americans. All three of these terms are correct. For them, that the year 1492, which of course is about Columbus's discovery of America, marks for them the beginning of a great tragedy, the beginning of the colonization of North America and also Central and South America, incidentally, and their displacement, the conquest of them, and to this very day, the status that they unfortunately have in our country. And so for them, 1492 is a tragic year in their collective history. In the year 1992, exactly 500 years after the voyage of Columbus, there began a movement to exchange or replace Columbus Day with an Indigenous Peoples Day. And this movement began, interestingly enough, in California, actually in Berkeley, and at first was regarded as kind of a fringe movement, but it has steadily gained traction over the years. And today, although Indigenous Peoples Day is marked in the calendar, it is not yet a federal holiday. But interestingly enough, 13 states have already decided to no longer observe Columbus Day for reasons that I'll get into. And the hope is that eventually it will be a day of recognizing the indigenous people of this continent. There has always been a degree of controversy about Columbus and about Columbus Day. First, a little word about the holiday itself. It was not an official American holiday until 1937, when it was established as such by President Franklin Roosevelt, and the reasons were more political than historical. Under pressure from the New York Irish political establishment, also known as Tammany Hall, President Roosevelt made Columbus Day a national holiday as a celebration of Italian heritage in this country. Well, that's interesting because although Columbus was certainly Italian, the ships were all Spanish, as were the crews. So it's rather interesting that this should become a day for celebrating the heritage of that Italian community. But anyone who's lived in the greater New York area knows that Columbus Day has been, and probably not this year, but has been a day of celebration and of parades in New York and other places. Well, the questions arise about Columbus's deeds themselves. First, his actual discovery, and I use that word in parentheses because he didn't really discover America. In fact, he never set foot on any part of the North American continent. The best we can say is he found his way to the Western Hemisphere, and he did disembark at Haiti and at Cuba and the Bahamas, but never made it as far as Florida. So his discovery of America is questionable at best. And besides that, we know today that Leif Erikson of the Vikings really was the first to discover North America several hundred years before Columbus. So the whole historical picture is clouded, to say the least. That's not to say that Columbus was not a significant figure. He was an excellent navigator, by the way, and that is why he was as successful as he was at, again, discovering the New World. But the truth is, and this is the most important point, is the word discovery is not really applicable because there were many peoples and hundreds of tribes that were living in North America long before Columbus ever came even close. And so to say that he discovered America is to, in a larger sense, ignore the fact that this continent was widely populated by people that had been here a very, very long time indeed, and are still here today. And that's where we really have to discuss this matter in further detail, because I believe that there is a basis for considering the substitution of Indigenous Peoples Day for Columbus Day, or at least to find a different time to do that. Not that we can in any way undo the harm that was done indisputably to the people of this continent. The displacement, the colonization, the spreading of diseases that were unfortunately brought along with the initial explorers, and essentially the disenfranchisement of millions of people who to this very day live in many cases in substandard conditions, and are regarded as not really the first Americans, but perhaps as something other than American at all. And so I would say that there is a historical tragedy which needs to be acknowledged, but also addressed. There is nothing really that can be done to undo centuries of settlement of North America. That's undeniable. But what can be done is everything conceivable or possible to help restore the dignity and the respect that Native American people are entitled to. And I believe that that is where the concept of an Indigenous People Day comes from. Let me take a little transition for a moment here to give you an analogy. You probably realize that there are quite a few people out there, unfortunately, who are Holocaust deniers, who want to say that the genocide of our people in Europe never really happened, the numbers were exaggerated, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, we all know this to be totally false and a grave disservice to our martyrs and to our Jewish people. And we will continue to resist all efforts to deny the Holocaust because it is so much of what makes us who we are today. And if we can take that mindset and transpose it to the minds and hearts of the original Americans, we might be able to understand a little better why, if we simply glide over that part of the history of our country, it is actually a disservice to them and an insult to the harm that was done to them and to the martyrdom of many of their people. Now, here is a small example, but not an insignificant one. As we know, we are in football season, and there are countless teams, both professional and college, as well as on the local high school level, that have traditionally named their teams after mascots that bear some connection to Indigenous people. For example, of course, the most notable example is that of the Washington Redskins, which at long last has finally changed its name, at least temporarily, to the Washington Football Club, which sounds okay to me. But the truth is that there are countless teams, in fact, at last count, over 2,000 teams nationwide that in some way are named after some kind of epithet related to Indigenous people, to American people, American Indians, rather. And I believe that it is totally appropriate that this transition continue to take place, that we need to abandon such names as the Redskins, or using the Braves of formerly Milwaukee, now of Atlanta. Boy, it takes me back, doesn't it? As symbols or perhaps as caricatures. Take a moment, if you will, to look at some of these political cartoons, if you will, most of which appeared in the New Yorker, and perhaps you'll get a little better idea of what I have in mind. Now here's where the cartoons go, and then once that's done, I'll continue. I readily admit that changing the names of team mascots is a very small step, but it's a small step in an important direction. And along with that, I sincerely hope that there will be a concerted effort on the part of all of America to deal with, to recognize, and to help restore the dignity of the first Americans who were here long before us. For us as Jews, I think especially, being a minority which has experienced so much tragedy and so much degradation over the centuries, it behooves us to be much more aware of the damage done, even inadvertently, and I admit that, even inadvertently, to the first Americans. Now, I haven't lived in Florida all that long, but I do know that the Florida State University mascots are the Seminoles. And of course, the Seminoles are a vast tribe that extend far beyond Florida. I did a little research into this, and it turns out that the Seminole tribe themselves are okay with the use of the Seminole name and logo, as long as it's done in a way that shows respect for their courage and for their determination. And it is with their consent that the Seminole name continues to be used for teams in the state of Florida. Interestingly enough, that Florida is one of the few places where the native tribes were not displaced and where they continue to live, not always peacefully, but continue to this very day. I personally believe it would be better if we simply went to animal mascots and left the whole story there. But the truth is that even inadvertently, using mascot names such as this, let alone caricatures, does harm to people in a way that most of us really cannot understand fully. So that's my commentary on Columbus Day. It may be that Columbus Day will be here to stay, and I suppose I don't quarrel with that. But I think the larger question is, what can we do as Americans living now in the 21st century to do whatever we can to help restore the self-respect and dignity of those who were here long, long before us. Shabbat Shalom.
My petals clean and bright, flashing with silver. Oh, the pale moonlight, dip, dip, and sing. Dip, dip, and sing. My petals clear and bright, flashing with silver. Oh, the pale moonlight, dip, dip, and swing. Dip, dip, and swing. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. My petals clean and bright, flashing with silver. Oh, the pale moonlight, dip, dip, and sing. Dip, dip, and sing. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. Cut. May we have peace like a river. May we have peace like a river. Peace like a river in our souls. May it flow like a river. Flow like a river. Peace, oh peace in our souls. Benafshi shalom, benafshi shalom. Shalom, shalom, shalom. May we have joy like the ocean. Joy like the ocean. Benafshi shalom, shalom. Benafshi shalom, shalom.
As we do every week, we take a few moments to remember those who are ill with our prayers and wishes for a speedy recovery, especially our dear ones and friends, but also including the thousands in this country, millions worldwide, who are struggling to sustain their lives in the midst of this coronavirus. And so we join together in the Misha Berach, page 253 in our prayer book.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mikol habracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mikol habracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
And now we turn to the Kaddish, and as we're about to join in reciting the Kaddish together, these are the Yortzites which we observe in our congregation. Anna Beaver remembers Norma Nyman, David Meyer remembers Karl Heinz May, and our temple family remembers Louis Critchler, Beatrice Levine, B. Weiner, Samuel Epstein, Eva Goldman, and David Kolchivsky. And as well, each of us remembers our own dear ones and friends that we have lost in years gone by. In their memory, we join now in the Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevorach, li'olam u'lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpoar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and bring comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. Oseh shalom b'imroman, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'imiru.
As we're about to conclude our service, I'd like to make just a few announcements for the congregation. First of all, as we do every week, we have Shabbat morning Torah study with me, and all of you are invited, whether you're members of our congregation or not. All you have to do is send me a little email to rabbimps@yahoo.com, and I'll include you on the Zoom invitation list, and you'll be on it every week, whether you want to join us that week or not. And secondly, we are continuing to collect non-perishable foodstuffs for the Manatee County Food Bank, and you're welcome to bring them to the temple. There's a large container in the lobby, and the temple church building is open almost every morning, weekdays, and we hope that you'll do your best to help keep filling it up because there's really a dire need for foodstuffs in this community, which has many people in deep poverty now. So again, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And we conclude with the closing hymn, which is a version of Adon Olam that's taken from the French and Sephardic tradition, Adon Olam.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Neit Naso V'chefso Kol Hazai Melech Shemo Nikra Hazai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora והוא היה, והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו, להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, בצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו עתיד רוחי, בעת תישן יאירה, ועם רוחי הבילעתי, אדוני לי ולא